Hey there, Thomas from Bricks here. In today's video, I want to show you what's new in Bricks 1.9. And as you can already tell by the highlights, this one is going to be a very WooCommerce heavy release. We're going to start off with the account builder, which concludes our Bricks phase 3. You can now build your entire WooCommerce store visually in Bricks. I'm going to show you a few examples. I'm not going to build all of the account pages in this video. Because the concept for all of the individual pages and endpoints is pretty much the same. Definitely head over to the Bricks Academy to check out our account builder article here. So you can just go to builder and then WooCommerce and you will find this article here. Yeah, you can basically create all of your account pages. Not basically, you can create all of them, starting with the login and registration page. So someone visiting the WooCommerce store / my account is not logged in. It's going to see the login and registration forms, which you can then customize inside a builder. If you have the registration enabled, of course, I'm going to show you that in a minute as well. Then we can also visually design the lost and reset password pages with Bricks. You can see here different template types for those as well. The My Account page itself, we can just simply edit that page as we would do with our shop page. That's basically what everyone that's going to be logged in would see. I think we're going to start off with that one. And then we also got individual templates or template types for specific account endpoints. So for example, the dashboard, the orders, the downloads, the addresses, and the account details, all of them are different endpoints. And you can see down here a list as well. Different template types, the endpoint that you can also see at the end of the URL, and then which specific elements this template contains. If we can have a look at the orders template later, then you will see that there's a dedicated account orders element. All right, let me show you my account page. So this is how it looks. I created and designed this one visually in Bricks. Like I said before, we can just edit this My Account page directly in Bricks. So I'm going to click on Edit with Bricks, and you can see my setup here. Just a section and container as always, and then I've got this notice element at the top, followed by the account page. The notice element is nothing new. That one was available before Bricks 1.9. And you can also see those elements, of course. Either you just search for them or just scroll down to WooCommerce and then you can find the account page, or in my case, the notice element as well. I added this because I want to make sure when someone, for example, fills out or changes the account details and he submits the form or she submits the form, then we want to make sure that this notification will show up. I enabled this setting in Bricks. So inside the dashboard under Bricks settings, WooCommerce, you can see that I have this WooCommerce notice element enabled. That's why I added it up here. The account page itself, I changed the direction to vertical, so the navigation is on the top and then the content is below by default. It's going to look slightly different. Let me just insert the default. So you can see this is how it looks by default. The account page navigation on the left with a light gray background and the content on the right. In my case, I customized this so it's stacked, and then the navigation items itself are aligned horizontally. And then I'm just spacing them evenly to accomplish the sort of layout here with a 10 pixel gap. And yeah, just some custom settings here. The active tab or endpoint, in my case here the dashboard, is going to have our yellow bricks color, right? And then text transform uppercase. That's basically all the changes I made here. You can add any other elements you want on this page. Of course, I just keep it simple here for demonstration purpose, but I think you get the idea. And that's how you build out the My Account page for your logged in users. We can have a look at the orders page. So you can see how I created that one. So I'm just simply going to search for account. And here we have our Woo orders. You can also see WooCommerce account orders is the template type. So we're just going to edit that one. And we're going to leave that page. And you can see now my account orders. What you will also notice is that this element that I inserted here, like I said before, because I'm editing the specific template, we have specific elements. In my case here, it's this account orders element. If you would edit the account downloads, you would have an account downloads element, right? And it's actually inserted inside this content area here. So everything is rendered that you would also see on the front end. So this actually gives you a much better representation of how the template looks in the context that is actually going to be placed on the front end. So just that you know, that's why you can only see one element here, but actually it's going to be rendered like that on the front end. So you don't need to put any container or a section around here, because for those endpoints, they sit inside of the My Account content. So it's already arranged accordingly. And if I click on it, you can see here the different settings that I applied. The whole orders element has a border. The head here has a dark background. And then I have this light typography, and then I transform here the text, right, to uppercase. And you can, of course, adjust this to your own liking. The pagination you can see inside of the builder, it always shows, so you can actually style it, even though maybe you don't have that many orders to trigger the pagination inside the builder. It shows, like I said, so you can style it. That's the account orders, and then you would just proceed with all of the other account endpoints here as well. Another one I wanted to show you was the login. So we're just going to go to the Woo account login just to have a look on how that one looks like. In my case, I have enabled the account registration on the My Account page. Otherwise, there's no point of really inserting this account registration form, which again, because we are editing the specific template type, we have those specific elements down here. So if you insert the registration form and you want to allow for registration of user accounts on the My Accounts page, you need to go to WooCommerce settings, and then under accounts privacy, you need to make sure that you have this setting enabled. Yep, and then I just inserted this login form. I applied all kinds of styles here, as you can see. Same for the account registration. I customized it a little bit as well. And that's what everyone's going to see when they visit the My Account page, but they are not logged in. If someone clicks the lost your password and you go to the lost password, again, you can also create templates for those pages as well. As also mentioned here in the documentation, you can see, where was it? Here, lost password, the password confirmation, and the reset password. All of those have dedicated template types in Bricks 1.9. So with that, I would say we conclude the account builder, and we can continue with the product gallery. So the product gallery has some great new additions. You can now set the thumbnail position by default. It's always going to be positioned below the main image. You can now freely set this to top right, bottom left. I'm going to show you that one first, and then we're going to have a look at the thumbnail slider. I think I've already got this one open here. So this is my product gallery element, and you will now see this thumbnails control group. And I already changed the position. By default, it's at the bottom, right? If you remember. And in my case now, I position this at the top. Of course, I can move it back to the bottom. This is how it looks. And I can also move it to the left and the right. You can specify the columns. In my case here, I just want to show all 4 images at once. I changed the opacity to 50% and 100% for the active element. That's the default anyway. There's a order around my thumbnails, and the active thumbnail is going to have a different, you can see here, our Bricks yellow border color. That one I set up as well. And then I can now also enable the thumbnail slider. So if you have products with a lot of images, and let's just say I would have 10 here, I probably don't want to show them here all at once. I want to make sure that I can arrange them in a bit more visually appealing way. That way I can accomplish this by just enabling the slider. I already have a bunch of settings here You can see I am showing a maximum of 2 items. You can also change this to 3 or 4. I adjusted the arrows, so I also have some custom styling here. You can see if I click it, and then it also navigates to the correct image in here. That's everything new in regards to the product gallery. Let me close that one here, the one we finished already. Oh yeah, the WooCommerce, the AJAX add to cart settings. We have new settings globally that make it now even more customizable, this feature, and also for the single product. Let me just first jump to my WooCommerce settings. So I have the AJAX add to cart enabled here, and you can now see that I can specify the text. So someone clicks the add to cart button, by default it's going to say adding. You can customize this to your liking, just placing any other text in here. Once the product has been added, it's what say added by default. You can change that as well. You can also change how quickly it returns back to the add to cart text. And if you want to show the notice, if you want to scroll to the notice, this added to cart notice, you can specify this here globally as well. And also for the add to cart element, because I have AJAX add to cart enabled, you also see various new settings here. You can even here set an icon while the element is being added to the cart that you can also animate. So this would result in this rotating spinner here. Once it has been added, you can have like a text here and like a little check mark. So that's basically how it would look in my specific setup here locally. All right. That's everything about WooCommerce in Bricks 1.9. But speaking of AJAX, we have a very cool new feature, which is called the AJAX loader, or the AJAX AJAX loading animation, which you can set up for queries that have infinite scroll, if you trigger the load more interaction, or if you have an AJAX pagination. Going to show you this as an example. There's also some documentation that we can check out later on. But I will show you this on a page in the builder using the load more button, because then I can manually trigger the load more and the AJAX loader. So for demo purpose, this is actually better than setting this up on an infinite scroll. So let me just go to my 1.9 page here that I created in Bricks, of course, and I have to scroll down. This one we have a look later, this one also, and we now have a look at the AJAX loader. So this actually I already created. I'm using the post element, but you can also set up, enable a query on a blog, and then just put in your featured image, post title, any other elements that you want to have inside of your loop. And it works exactly the same way, but it's a bit easier for demonstration purpose. So I have an hosts element here, and I'm just going to show one post per page because I want to trigger the load more. So I think that's the best setup here for, again, just demo purpose. And if you scroll a bit further down in the query loader options, you will now see this new section here, the AJAX loader, and it also says shows when using infinite scroll, load more interaction, and the AJAX pagination. You can pick from a variety of animations. In my case, I just selected the spinner here. You can also check them all out yourself in Bricks 1.9. I changed the color. So my spinner is going to show in this purple color here. You can scale it. If you want to make it twice the size, you can change it to 2, or half the size, then change it to 2.5. And you can also position this loading animation anywhere you want on your page. By default, it's just going to show after the last result in your query loop, which we're going to explore now on the front end. So I'm just gonna just go to the front end. Let me just reload this page, and let's scroll down. And so this is my post element, right? One post per page. And if I'm gonna click more now, you will see this loading animation. As soon as it finished loading, it's gonna show me my button again, right? So now I only see the loader. And it basically keeps going like this until we have loaded everything. Before, what would basically happen is you just click that button, or you have the infinite scroll, you scroll down, there's no animation. The user's not really knowing what's happening. Is there anything being loaded? And then it's just like, boom, there's a new post, and you don't really have any idea that this is actually happening. So this makes it much more clear visually for everyone interacting with the page that something is loading, right? So this is gonna load until I can do this until I'm at the last post. I think I have 10 in total. So yeah, that was my last one. Now the load more button also disappears because there's nothing else to load. I'm gonna remove this button, and I'm just gonna set this up from scratch so you can see how we accomplish the setup. So let me just remove the button. And I'm just gonna add a new one, button. And I'm gonna change the text again, load more. Want to make sure it's centered. Okay. And I want to trigger the load more, which is an interaction, right? So I'm going to add an interaction here. Click on the button should trigger the load more for the query loop. Which loop? The loop of my posts element here. And that's it. We already have set up the AJAX loader on the posts element. I didn't change anything there. So this should actually already work now. Maybe change the color to red. Let's save. Wonderful. And let's reload. And let's scroll down and let's click. And you can see that my loading animation shows now in red. What you will also notice is that my button is still visible. And the cursor we should also change. So first of all, I'm just going to set the cursor to pointer. And then I'm going to make sure that while we, once the AJAX loader starts, we want to hide the button. And once it finishes, we want to show it again. So we can do this with the new interactions I'm also going to show you now. First of all, let's go to our button, and under layout, we can set our cursor to pointer, right? That way I can have, you will see on the front end, let me reload. This now shows me the pointer. And now I want to make sure that when I click the button and we start the AJAX loader, that I'm going to hide my button. Very simple. Of course, the use cases can be much more complex or different. This is just an illustration on how you can use those two new interactions. Also, there's documentation for that here, for those new interactions. If you go to the interactions article and then you scroll down to the AJAX loader, I think which I already have open here, you can see how you can set this one up yourself. I'm going to explain this with this example here real quick. So you already have a head start in that department. So we're going to keep our click interaction, of course, and then we're just going to add a new one. And the trigger for this interaction is going to be the AJAX loader. So query AJAX loader here. When it starts, we want to perform an action, right? First of all, which query? Again, the post query. And we want to hide. And what do we want to hide? We want to hide this button. So we want to hide the target is going to be self. I don't need to change anything here. And when it finishes, we want to make sure that we show our button again. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add another interaction. And I'm going to say, when the AJAX loader finishes, which one? This one. What do we want? We want to show the element. Which one? This one that we're editing, right? So you can see everything is saved. Let's try. And now you can see, beautiful. I have my pointer cursor here. I can click on my button. It disappears. Once it finishes loading, it shows again. It's just wonderful. And yeah, that's also, I think, everything that I have to say for the AJAX loader. If you have AJAX pagination or infinite scroll, exactly the same principle. All right. Then next up, Polylang integration. That's also a very anticipated feature. Not gonna go over the integration here in this release video. We have written an entire article that goes step by step through the whole process of setting up your Polylang installation and how you can use it with Bricks. Yeah, just head over to Bricks Builder Academy, search for Polylang. You will find this article here, how to use Polylang with Bricks, how to set it up, how you can translate posts and pages, how to translate templates, and how you can use template conditions, multilingual use, and the language switcher, which is also a new element in Bricks that's going to be visible in the Elements panel when you have Polylang enabled. Some comment tips down here and links to additional resources. So yeah, definitely make sure to check out this article. If you notice any remaining bugs with Polylang, this initial integration, of course, might not be perfect. Definitely make sure to reach out to us via email as always. You know, step by step, something that we can reproduce, and then we try our best to get to the bottom of it. Yeah. That's the Polylang integration. And last but not least, at least for the highlights, of course, of this 1.9 release, there are many more features, improvements, bug fixes, which you can check out in changelog. We're going to explore some fun new settings, CSS-wise. And that's going to be the aspect ratio, isolation, pointer events, mixed blend mode, and the background blend mode. All of those are available under the Style tab and then inside of the Layout control group. I'm not going to go through all of those, but we're definitely going to have a look at the aspect ratio by exploring this image here. Pointer events is pretty self-explanatory. Then the mixed blend mode and the background blend mode. All right, let's start with the aspect ratio. So I got this image here. Where are we? Aspect ratio, right? Nothing spectacular about this one yet. I just mentioned a minute ago that the aspect ratio setting is under Style Layout. When editing the image element, it's right here. Yeah, so it's a little bit under the content tab, more accessible, because I think that's probably where you're going to use it most of the time, right? So instead of having to go to a style layout, it's just going to be located here, especially close to the object fit, which we need to use anyway. I'm going to show you that in a minute as well. Why? So that's, I think, is the perfect spot for the setting when you use it on the image elements. Aspect ratio is basically the width and height ratio. So if I'm going to set this to 2, for example, would mean that my image now is twice as wide as high, right? It's the width height ratio. So if my image would be 1000 pixel wide, it's now 500 pixel high, right? If I'm going to change this to 0.5 or 0.5, it's twice as high as it's wide, right? So if it's 1000 pixel wide, it's 2000 pixel high. Of course, there are more common ratios that you would probably use would be 16:9. So if you put it in like this here, 16:9, you will actually see that nothing is happening here. I can just put in whatever I want. And that's because the colon is not the valid character to use here as a separator. We actually need to use the /. So if I'm going to change this to the /, you can now see that my image shows in 16:9. Of course, I can also change this to 4:3. We don't want it to limit you in any way with the aspect ratios. That's why this is just a free text input. You can just put in anything you want here, making it much more customizable and just, you know, providing you with a bunch of predefined aspect ratios. So just be aware to use the / and you're good to go. One thing that you will notice, maybe I'm just going to change this back to 69, is that now my image here looks a bit squished, right? This is an easy fix. We're not going to apply this by default for you, so you need to be aware to set this yourself. Very simple. You just need, that's why the aspect ratio is just above the object fit, because you need to change the object fit to cover. Once you do this, you can see that it looks properly in its proportions, right? You can also change the position, right? From, I think this is center by default. If I change this to top, it looks like this. I change it to bottom, or specify any other valid object position, I can change it here easily as well. Yeah, and that's the aspect ratio on the image element, and you can use this also on any other element. So let's just say you want to have a square container, right? Let's just say this is my container here. Let me give it a little bit of a background color so you can see exactly what's my container. I'm not sure if I'm using the 1100 pixel width by default. Anyway, now if I go to style layout, I can go down here to, what was too far, under sizing, the aspect ratio. And now I can change this to 1. And that would make sure that my container is exactly as high as it is wide. So if it's 1000 pixel wide, it's now 1000 pixel high. That's how you can create very easily a square container, block, yeah, or any other element really. So yeah, that's the aspect ratio on a container and how you can also use it on your image elements. Last but not least, Bricks also now supports blend modes. So there are actually two kinds of blend modes that we can apply. One is the mixed blend mode and then the background blend mode. I'm just going to show you first the mixed blend mode. On my example, the aspect ratio, I think we can just get rid of that one. Same one with the AJAX loader. And you can see my section here, blend modes. Yeah, inside this container, I got a heading, and the container itself, 400 pixel high, with a background here, as you can see. Yeah, pretty much black and white image. And the interesting thing here is with the heading, for which I applied this mix blend mode. And the mix blend mode is located under layout. And then you scroll down to miscellaneous, and then you will find the mix blend mode. Here you can also find the isolation and the pointer events as well. So in my case here, I actually changed, well, I set this blend mode to exclusion. Let me just remove this. You can see actually how my heading looks like by default. So typography wise, I have a red color heading with a 60 pixel font size. And if you apply the mix blend mode, it's gonna blend my heading with the background. In this case, this background image, resulting in this effect that I had before. So let me change this back to, what did I have? Exclusion. You can play around with the different blend modes. I'm not gonna explain or go over them one by one here. If you just search for mixed blend modes, you can find plenty of tutorials about those. But yeah, if you just click on a few of them, you can see how the heading blends with the background, right? This is how you can assign the different mixed blend modes. On the heading, you can do the same thing on an image element if you want to blend your image element with the background. All valid use cases for this mix blend mode. We can also blend the background image with the background color. I'm going to show you that one here because you remember maybe that the background image here is just like this black and white background image. And if I'm going to set a background color now, let's just do this blue here. And then I'm going to scroll down here. I have this new setting, this background blend mode. And I can now change this one to, let's say, multiply. And you can now see that my background image and my background color are blended together. And that's basically the result when using this multiply. Probably gonna select a different image to show you here. Yeah, I think this one is better. Maybe make it green. Looks like this, right? So of course now my heading, which is red, it doesn't look really good here now. My background is blending nicely with my background color. My background image is blending nicely with my background color, resulting in this green blend. But the heading is really standing out here, not in a good way. So first of all, I'm probably going to change this to white because I don't want to have like this red or any other blue color when I'm actually working with a green background here. So I'm going to change this to white, and then I'm going to go to the mix blend mode for my heading because I want to make sure that it now blends in with my background. And the background is using the background blend mode. So you can see how you can mix and match them up to make sure that your background image works with the background color, and the text or whatever any other element that's sitting on top of it is blending with the background as well. So I think in this case, I would probably go with the overlay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And this is how you can change it. We could also throw in a CSS filter in the mix, maybe, just to show you that this is another way to extend it. So on my container, I'm going to set my saturation to 50, making it look a bit more, not as bright here, but resulting also in this nice effect. And yeah, that's just one example on how you can use the mix blend mode and the background blend mode, starting at bricks 1.9. And this also brings me to the end of this little presentation here. I hope, as always, that you enjoy building with this new version. And yeah, I'm going to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.